Anonymous says, how do I decide if I should marry my boyfriend? All signs point to definitely wanting to do it. The holdup is that he's so financially irresponsible that it scares me. He has no savings, and he spends every dollar he makes on shit he doesn't need. I'm much more frugal. I don't care that he doesn't have money. I'm not trying to get his, but with us joining everything together, I want to know that we can make a future together that allows us to do the things we want. Are our differences irreconcilable? Great word. Thanks.
Ooh.
I'm going to take this one first.
Go for it.
No, I mean, I don't think, just from what you tell me, I don't think your differences are irreconcilable. I think that it is a fucking conversation that you have where you go, okay, so we are going to be joining all of our shit together, if that's what you're going to do. There's a second option, which we can talk about, but if you're going to be joining all your shit together and you're going to be, joining finances and fucking making all those decisions together, which I think is good. A lot of people would be mad at me for that. Like, no, it's a modern time. You don't have to do that. And I agree you don't have to do that. I just do think it's good. If you are going to do that, then we're going to have to be on the same page about stuff. And it doesn't mean that, like, you can be bringing this to him. Like, it doesn't mean that I'm going to be babysitting you or, like, giving you a fucking allowance or anything like that. It just means that we have goals and we should be moving towards the same goals. And we should still spend our money on shit that we want and, buy fun shit. But we need to be saving our money. We need to make decisions together. We need to be a team on this shit. And then you have that conversation. And as long as he's willing to work on it, then yes. And also, don't expect it to change overnight. Those habits take a long fucking time. I should know. I have a partner in life who we are not in a romantic relationship, but we are in every other aspect of married, essentially. Like, we do life together. Our finances are joined. We live in the same house in separate rooms, and we raise our kids together. We're just not in a romantic or physical sexual relationship. But we make those decisions together. She is much more frugal than I am, like infinitely more frugal than I am. I would be poor as fuck if it weren't for her. Because much like Liam, this is where Liam's wife and I are very similar in a lot of ways. This is where Liam and I are the same. We are the spenders of our respective relationships. And so, but I had to learn. I'm in this, partnership with somebody, and, we're trying to do things for the future. I now have, this whole family that I'm responsible for, and we're all responsible for each other, but I have this family I'm responsible for, and I have to be smarter. I can't just buy everything I ever want and, live paycheck to pay. Like, I can't do that. I got to be smart. Got to think about the future, all those things. So he's capable of doing that too, but it takes fucking time. And there are still times where I'm like, oh, my Amazon card, ouch. There are still times where I'm like, fuck, I fucked up. And, I got to rein it in for a while. So it's going to take time, but you can work together as long as he's willing to. The other option, I'll say, is you could have separate finances. I do think it's a little funky. I'm not saying it's wrong, but I think it leads to, when I say funky, I mean it leads to a lot of complications in a marriage that I don't think are necessary. But if you want to have separate finances and like he's got his responsibilities, you've got yours, you each have separate bank accounts, one of you owns the house, I don't know. You can do those things if you want to, if that would make you feel better. But I do think if he's a decent guy, he's going to be willing to work with you. Liam, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I would echo a lot of that same stuff, because when Brittany and I first started dating, she's 7 years younger than I am, and she had way better credit and actually had a credit card. I did not. So when we first started dating, this was like before we even got engaged, let alone married. She added me as like an authorized user to her credit card and to her Target card, and it helped me build my credit up. And then when we went to move into our first apartment, she had no rental history because she'd only lived with her parents. I had tons of rental history, so I could literally get any apartment we wanted because they saw my rental history and said, oh, this dude is solid. This guy's reliable. So we both brought something to the table that was beneficial for the other person. Like, she had the credit rating that I didn't have, but I had the rental history that she didn't. So we were both working 2 jobs at the time. She was working at a waitress at 2 different places. I was working at 2 different pizza shops, and we would always pool our money. So like she was serving at 2 shops. I was only serving at one of the 2 pizza shops that I was working at. The other one I was just like, I threw the dough. But we would still always pool our money. Like we would, come back at the end of the night. It'd be fucking like 2, 3 in the morning, and we would pool all our tips for the day. And we just put it away. Like she had her checking account, I had my checking account, but we always pooled the money. So like paychecks went into the checking account, but the pooled money we would go and put into a savings that was for both of us. When we got married, we only did one checking account. So we've got one checking account. We've got, we had 2 savings accounts, but now we've lumped it all into one because that has a higher yield. So we get a better return on it if all the money's in the one. So, and that works for us. I'm not saying that works for everybody, but that worked for us. And it was nice because there was never a point where it was like one of us was putting in more of an effort than the other one. So I think for you and for your boyfriend, there are probably other things that he brings to the table that he brings to the table. That help you the same way that your financial reliability will help him. I make a majority of the money that comes into our household. Brittany also makes money, but majority of it comes from what I earn. But she's the one that handles all the bills. Like she does all the bill payment because I trust her to do that. I know that that's something that she's good at and it's reliable. And it's one less thing that I have to worry about so that I can focus on doing things like, booking more auditions and getting more work and, continuing to be able to live this dream life. So, I think that's what's important for both of you to have that conversation, tell him that you want him to be more financially responsible and that these are the things, like look up some different things or take some of the advice that Tim and I are giving you today and take some of those into consideration and go, okay, well, what would I feel comfortable doing that we could do to build him towards more of that financial responsibility? So that way, by the time you guys get married, it's like a non-issue. But like Tim said, it's going to be work. It's going to take some time. I mean, luckily for me, I was like, I knew my credit was fucked and I was like, dude, I need to do whatever it takes to get good credit. Cause if I'm, at the time I was like, I know I'm going to propose. Like, I know I want to get married to her and I want I want to be able to provide for her. And I can't do that on the credit score that I have now. So, hopefully this will kind of light a fire under his ass, but, if not, it will also give you some things to consider if this is the right fit, because his desire to want to work with you on this type of thing should always be there. So
yeah,
that's my 2 cents.
That's exactly it. It's like he's gotta want to work on it. And if he's not willing to work on it, then that might give you a hint as to his character. It's not about the money. It's not about that. It's just about his character. Like if you present to him, hey, this is going to be something that's important to our future. It's important to me for us to make this work. And he's not willing to put in the work to make those changes, then yeah, that might say some things about him. Not necessarily that he's a bad guy, but just that he might not be the fit for you. But I guess the one caution I would give you is don't approach this like like with aggression. Don't approach this like, hey, you suck ass with money and I need you to stop. Approach it like
that's what Brittany did with me. And I mean, it fucking worked. No, I'm just kidding.
That's fair, but you're also a sociopath. So
that's true. We've established it. It's canon. It's canon.
But I think if you come to him like, hey, I want us to start planning for the future. And part of that comes down to what we do with our money. Do we want to, when we get married, do we want to have our money conjoined and blah, 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 right? It's a conversation about we, not about you. If you come into it having a conversation and not pointing fingers, it's going to go over a lot better. He'll hear a lot more. So yeah, I highly encourage you to have the conversation and don't give up unless he gives you reasons why you should give up.